Hello everyone. My name is Mrs. Mallepati Laxmi. I am from Deccan Education Society School. Today we are going to learn lesson number 1.2 titled The Thief's Story. As the name suggests, this story is about a young thief who's just 15 years old, though he is experienced and skilled. One day he meets a young man named Anil and plans to gain his confidence and rob him whenever he gets a chance. But things don't go the way the thief had planned. There is an interesting twist in the story which changes the life of the thief forever. Let's see what the lesson is all about. The Thief's Story. This is written by Ruskin Bond, who is a famous Indian author. Let's get some more information about the author. Ruskin Bond was born on 19th May 1934 in Kasauli, Himachal Pradesh. He is an Indian author of British descent. He did his schooling from Bishop Cotton School, Shimla, and he graduated in 1950. He now lives with his adopted family in Landor, Missouri. He is known for his contribution to children's literature. He has written over 100 short stories, essays, and novels in his literary career of 40 years. Some of his books are The Room on the Roof is the first novel written by him. The book also fetched him the prestigious John Llewellyn Rice Memorial Prize in 1957. Looking for the Rainbow, The Whistling Schoolboy, The Hidden Pool, Rusty Comes Home, The Blue Umbrella, The Boy from the Hills, The Tree Lover. These are some of the books authored by him. The book titled The Blue Umbrella had found its way to the silver screen through a movie made by Vishal Bhardwaj. Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra is a collection of short stories closely linked with each other. It traces the life of Ruskin Bond from childhood to adolescence to adulthood. Ruskin Bond has received many prestigious awards. The Indian Council for Child Education has recognized his role in the growth of children's literature in India. He got the Sahitya Akademi Award in 1992 for Our Trees Still Grow in Dehra for his published work in English. He was awarded the Padma Shri in 1999 and Padma Bhushan in 2014. I was still a thief when I met Anil, and though only 15, I was an experienced and fairly successful hand. Anil was watching a wrestling match when I approached him. I is the thief. He is the narrator of the story. He was still stealing and robbing when he met Anil, and Anil is the man whom the thief had targeted. He was the man whom the thief was going to rob next. As I mentioned earlier, the thief was just 15 years old, maybe of your age, but he was very experienced in stealing, and till now he succeeded in robbing many people. He was about 25, a tall, lean fellow, and he looked easygoing, kind and simple enough for my purpose. I hadn't had much luck of late and thought I might be able to get into the young man's confidence. You look a bit of a wrestler yourself, I said. A little flattery helps in making friends. Anil was a young man. He was 25 years old. He was tall and lean, means he was quite slim. He looked easygoing, means he looked very calm and relaxed. He also looked very kind and simple for the thief's purpose. Cheating and robbing cunning people is difficult, but simple people can be easily robbed. So the thief felt that Anil can be easily robbed, and that was the only purpose for which he approached him. Praising someone helps in breaking the ice. It helps in making friendship easily. So even the thief used this age-old trick. He used flattery, means he praised Anil excessively and insincerely. He didn't mean what he said, and Anil was watching a match. The thief easily guessed that Anil loved this sport, so he praised Anil. So do you, he replied, which put me off for a moment, because at that time I was rather thin. Well, I said modestly, I do wrestle a bit. What's your name? Hari Singh, I lied. I took a new name every month that kept me ahead of the police and my former employers. Anil looked simple, but not as simple as the thief had thought. He immediately understood that the thief was using flattery. So, even he tried the same trick. He told the thief that even he looked like a wrestler. This statement put the thief off. To put someone off means to discourage someone from doing something. When the thief heard Anil's statement, he was discouraged. He understood that Anil was not as simple as he had thought, and it would be difficult to gain his confidence. But after hearing Anil's statement, the thief had no other option but to agree to what Anil said. He modestly, means in a humble way and without boasting, accepted that he did wrestle a bit, though he was very thin to be a wrestler. Anil could sense that the thief was lying. Still, he kept his patience and asked the thief what was his name. The thief lied and said that his name was Hari Singh. His name was something else. As he was a thief, he never revealed his true identity. That helped him to escape from the police and his former employers. He changed his name every month. He gained confidence of a gullible person, worked for them for some time, and whenever he got a chance, he robbed them and ran away. And as he never gave his real name, neither the police nor his employers could catch him. Then he changed his name and searched for another victim. So changing names always helped him. After this introduction, Anil talked about the well-oiled wrestlers who were grunting, lifting, and throwing each other about. I didn't have much to say. After this formal introduction, Anil started talking about the well-oiled wrestlers. Anil liked to watch wrestling matches and had a lot of knowledge about the wrestlers. They were grunting, means they were producing rough sounds in their throats. They were lifting and throwing each other about. The thief had nothing to say, but he had no knowledge of wrestling. Anil walked away. I followed casually. Hello again, he said. I gave him my most appealing smile. I want to work for you, I said, but I can't pay you. I thought that over for a minute. Perhaps I had misjudged my man. After the match was over, Anil started walking towards home. The thief followed him casually, means the thief followed him in a very normal way. Anil tried to strike a conversation with him. He gave Anil his most appealing smile. Appealing means attractive or attention-getting. The thief was trying to get Anil's attention so that he can gain his confidence. The thief was not ready to let his probable victim go. He was trying his best. The thief told Anil that he wanted to work for him, but Anil denied, saying that he was unable to pay him. This statement made the thief think for a minute. He thought if this person can't even pay the salary, then he might not be as rich as he had thought him to be. He thought that maybe he had misjudged his man. Misjudge means to make an error or mistake in judging someone. The thief was a bit hesitant, but immediately he decided to stick with Anil. I asked, "Can you feed me? Can you cook?" "I can cook," I lied again. "If you can cook, then maybe I can feed you." He took me to his room over the Jamna sweet shop and told me I could sleep on the balcony. But the meal I cooked that night must have been terrible because Anil gave it to a stray dog and told me to be off. But I just hung around, smiling in my most appealing way, and he couldn't help laughing. He asked Anil if he could feed him. As the thief had no other place to go, he thought Anil was the only option. So he was ready to work for Anil for free. He only wanted to be fed. After hearing this, Anil asked the thief if he could cook. The thief said that he could cook, but it was a lie. He lied again. First time he lied when he gave his name, and now for the second time when he said he cooked. He could cook, whereas he had never cooked in his life. After learning that Hari Singh could cook, Anil agreed to employ him. He took him to his room, which was over the Jamna sweet shop, and told the thief that he could sleep in the balcony. The thief cooked a meal that night, but it was so terrible and tasteless that Anil couldn't eat it. He gave it to a stray dog and told the thief to go away. Stray means any domestic animal that wanders around. Usually we see stray dogs or cats in our locality. But the thief didn't go away. He hung around, means he waited there itself and smiled in the most attractive manner. His behavior made Anil laugh. He decided to keep the thief in his house. Later he patted me on the head and said he never mind. He would teach me to cook. He also taught me to write my name and said he would soon teach me to write whole sentences and to add numbers. I was grateful. I knew that once I could write like an educated man, there would be no limit to what I can achieve. As Anil was a kind and considerate man, he didn't throw the thief out of his home. Later, he patted the thief on his head. To pat means to touch somebody or something gently and usually repeated with the flat hand. So, Anil patted the thief on his head and told him not to worry. He promised the thief that he would teach him to cook. Anil also taught the thief to write his name and promised him that he would soon teach him to write whole sentences and to add numbers. The thief was grateful to Anil, means he was thankful to him. When someone helps us or does a favor upon us, we are grateful to them. We are thankful to them. So even the thief was thankful to Anil as he was going to teach him to cook and to read and write. The thief knew that an educated man could achieve, means succeed in life. So even he wanted to become educated and earn more and more money. He knew that education would definitely help him in achieving his goals. It was quite pleasant working for Anil. I made the tea in the morning and then would take my time buying the day's supplies, usually making a profit of about ₹1 a day. I think he knew I made a little money this way, but he did not seem to mind. The thief liked working for Anil. His day started with preparing tea in the morning. Then he would take his own time in buying the day's supplies. Supplies means food and other ordinary things like soap, etc., which are needed by people every day. During this process, Hari Singh would make a profit of about ₹1 a day. He thought that Anil knew that he made money this way, but he never spoke about it. Anil made money by fits and starts. He would borrow 1 week, lend the next. He kept worrying about his next check. But as soon as it arrived, he would go out and celebrate. It seems he wrote for magazines, a queer way to make a living. Anil made his money by fits and starts, means he earned money in short, irregular intervals. Salaried people get money regularly. They are paid every month. But people like writers are not paid regularly. They are paid only when their articles or books are published. And as Anil was a writer, he never had regular income. Sometimes he borrowed money and sometimes he lent it. He was always worried about his next check, but he never saved money when he got a check. As soon as it arrived, he would go out and celebrate. The thief thought that it was a queer way, means a very different way of making a living. To make a living means to earn money needed for survival. People do various jobs to earn a living. Few work as teachers, few work as doctors or lawyers or engineers. One evening, he came home with a small bundle of notes, saying he had just sold a book to a publisher. At night, I saw him tuck the money under the mattress. I had been working for Anil for almost a month, and apart from cheating on the shopping and had not done anything in my line of work, I had every opportunity for doing so. Anil had given me a key to the door, and I could come and go as I pleased. He was the most trusting person I had ever met. One evening, Anil came home with a small bundle of notes. He had got a check as he had sold a book to a publisher. Naturally, he was very happy. At night, Hari Singh saw that Anil had tucked the money under the mattress. Tuck means to place something somewhere safely. Anil had placed the money safely under the mattress. Looking at the notes, the evil spirit in Hari Singh became active. He had been working for Anil for almost a month, but he had not done any kind of stealing apart from cheating during the shopping of supplies. He used to take ₹1 every day without Anil's knowledge. But now he had every opportunity to put his skills to work. Opportunity means a chance for progress or profit. Now Hari Singh could easily earn money by stealing Anil's bundles of notes. He had many chances to steal as Anil had given him keys of the room. He could come and go as he pleased or liked. Anil was the most trusting person Hari Singh had ever met. He had given keys to a person whom he had met just a month ago. He never interfered in Hari Singh's job. He trusted Hari Singh completely. And that is why it was so difficult to rob him. It's easy to rob a greedy man because he can afford to be robbed. But it's difficult to rob a careless man. Sometimes he doesn't even notice he's been robbed, and that takes all the pleasure out of the work. Well, it's time I did some real work. I told myself, I'm out of practice. And if I don't take the money, he'll only waste it on his friends. After all, he doesn't even pay me. This trust was preventing Hari Singh from robbing Anil. According to him, it was easy to rob a greedy man because he could afford to be robbed. A greedy man would immediately notice the loss. But it was difficult to rob a careless man like Anil because he might not even notice that he had been robbed, and that would take out all the fun from the work. We all want our work to be noticed and recognized. We want people to talk about it. If our work is unnoticed, then it's of no use. Even Hari Singh wanted people to notice about the theft he committed and talk about it. But he knew that Anil, being such a careless man, would not even notice the loss. Finally, Hari Singh decided to steal Anil's money. He encouraged himself by saying that he was out of practice for a long time, and he decided to do some real work. He justified himself by saying that if he didn't steal money from Anil, then also he would waste it on his friends. And anyways, Anil didn't pay him for the work. Anil was asleep. A beam of moonlight stepped over the balcony and fell on the bed. I sat up on the floor, considering the situation. If I took the money, I could catch the 10:30 express to Lucknow. Slipping out of the blanket, I crept up to the bed. Anil was sleeping peacefully. His face was clear and unlined. Even I had more marks on my face, though mine were mostly scars. Hari Singh thought over the situation. If he could steal the money, he could catch the 10:30 express to Lucknow. He crept up to the bed and slipped his hand under the mattress. Crept is the past tense of creep. It means to move very quickly and carefully so that nobody notices you. When Hari Singh crept up to the bed, Anil was sleeping peacefully. His face was clear and unlined. It means there were no signs of worry and anxiety on Anil's face. As you all know, Anil was a very simple, kind and affectionate person. He earned his living by fair means. He was a writer. He never cheated anyone, so he was sleeping peacefully. But on the other hand, Hari Singh, who was a thief, had many scars on his face. Probably he might have got into trouble or fight while robbing people, or maybe he was caught by the police and beaten up. So his face had many marks and mostly they were scars. Scars mean permanent marks on the skin or body from a cut or other injury. My hand slid under the mattress, searching for the notes. When I found them, I drew them out without a sound. Anil sighed in his sleep and turned on his side towards me. I was startled and quickly crawled out of the room. When I was on the road, I began to run. I had the notes at my waist, held there by the string of my pajamas. I slowed down to a walk and counted the notes. 600 rupees in 50s. I could live like an oil-rich Arab for a week or two. Hari Singh moved towards Anil, and as he knew where Anil had tucked the money, he slid his hand under the mattress and searched for the notes. Soon he found them and took them out without making any noise. At that moment, Anil sighed in his sleep and turned on one side, facing Hari Singh. Hari Singh was startled by this action, means he was alarmed and frightened. He thought Anil would catch him red-handed. Slowly, he crawled out of the room. Quickly, Hari Singh moved out of the room. Once he was on the road, he began to run. He wanted to move away from Anil's room as soon as possible. He had tied the notes tightly at his waist using the strings of his pajamas. Once he reached a safe place, he slowed down. He started walking slowly and counted the notes. The total amount was of 600 rupees. It was a big amount. He was very happy. He imagined about the luxurious life that he was going to lead. He visualized himself living like an oil-rich Arab for a week or two. We all know how rich the oil well owners of Arab are. They lead a very luxurious life, living in huge palaces, moving around in swanky cars, making foreign trips, etc. So even Hari Singh imagined a luxurious life as he had a big amount with him. When I reached the station, I did not stop at the ticket office. I had never bought a ticket in my life, but dashed straight to the platform. The Lucknow Express was just moving out. The train had still to pick up speed, and I should have been able to jump into one of the carriages. But I hesitated. For some reason I can't explain, and I lost the chance to get away. The narrator, that is Hari Singh, reached the station, but he did not stop to buy the ticket at the ticket house. He had never bought a ticket in his life. Usually the thieves have no fixed destination. They themselves don't know where they are going to board the train or where they are going to get down. Hari Singh dashed straight to the platform. Dashed means to go somewhere quickly. He quickly moved towards the platform. The Lucknow Express was just moving out. The train had still to pick the speed, means the train was moving quite slowly. The thief could have easily jumped into one of the carriages, but the thief hesitated. He stopped. He was unable to give any reason for this act. He didn't know what stopped him from jumping into the running train and getting away easily. To get away means to escape. He didn't understand why he was unable to escape. When the train had gone, I found myself standing alone on the deserted platform. I had no idea where to spend the night. I had no friends, believing that friends were more trouble than help. And I did not want to make anyone curious by staying at one of the small hotels near the station. The only person I knew really well was the man I had robbed. Leaving the station, I walked slowly through the bazaar. When the train had gone, Hari Singh found himself standing alone on the deserted platform. Deserted means with no people. As it was quite late at night, there was no one on the platform. Hari Singh was at a loss. He didn't know where to spend the night. He had no friends because he always believed that friends were more trouble than help. Basically, he didn't trust anybody. He didn't want to raise the curiosity of people by staying in one of the small hotels near the station because he was quite young to stay alone in a hotel. He knew only one person well, and he was Anil, whom he had robbed. He left the station and walked slowly through the bazaar. In my short career as a thief, I had made a study of men's faces when they had lost their goods. The greedy man showed fear, the rich man showed anger, the poor man showed acceptance. But I knew that Anil's face when he discovered the theft would show only a touch of sadness. Not for the loss of money, but for the loss of trust. Hari Singh's career was a short one. He was just 15 years old. Whenever he robbed someone, he made a study of their faces. He carefully observed how people reacted when they lost their goods. He observed that greedy man showed fear, the rich man showed anger, and the poor man accepted his fate. But he knew that Anil's face would show only sadness when he would discover about the theft. He knew that Anil wouldn't feel sad for the loss of money, but he would feel sad for the loss of trust. Anil had trusted Hari Singh a lot. He had treated him with so much love and respect. Definitely, Anil would be badly hurt emotionally. I found myself in the Maidan and sat down on the bench. The night was chilly. It was nearly November and a light drizzle added to my discomfort. Soon it was raining quite heavily. My shirt and pajamas stuck to my skin and a cold wind blew the rain across my face. I went back to the bazaar and sat down in the shelter of the clock tower. The clock showed midnight. I felt for the notes. They were damp from the rain. Anil's money. In the morning, he would probably have given me 2 or 3 rupees to go to the cinema. But now I had it all. I couldn't cook his meals, run to the bazaar, or learn to write whole sentences anymore. It was early November, so the night was chilly. It means the night was very cold. There was a light drizzle, means there was a light rain, and it was making Hari Singh very uncomfortable. Soon it was raining heavily. Hari Singh was completely wet. His clothes stuck to his body. A cold wind blew the rain across his face. Hari Singh went back to the bazaar and sat under the shelter of the clock tower. The clock showed midnight. The thief felt for the notes. They were damp from the rain. Means they were wet. The notes belonged to Anil. Hari Singh imagined that maybe Anil would have given him 2-3 rupees to go to cinema. But now all the money belonged to him. Hari Singh thought over his action. He regretted that henceforth he won't be able to cook meals for Anil or run to the bazaar to buy supplies, and most importantly, he won't learn to write whole sentences anymore. I'd forgotten about them in the excitement of the theft. Whole sentences, I knew, could one day bring me more than a few hundred rupees. It was a simple matter to steal, and sometimes just as simple to be caught. But to be a really big man, a clever and respected man, was something else. I should go back to Anil, I told myself, if only to learn to read and write. I hurried back to the room, feeling very nervous, for it is much easier to steal something than to return it undetected. I opened the door quietly, then stood in the doorway in clouded moonlight. Anil was still asleep. I crept to the head of the bed, and my hand came up with the notes. I felt his breath on my hand. I remained still for a minute. Then my hand found the edge of the mattress and slipped under it with the notes. Hari Singh had forgotten everything about education in the excitement of theft. He knew he could earn much more using his education. He knew stealing was very easy. Getting caught sometimes was also easy. But to become a great, clever, and respected man was very different and difficult. Hari Singh thinks about his future and decides to go back to Anil, as he wanted to learn to read and write. Hari Singh quickly went to the room, feeling nervous. Stealing was easy, but to return it undetected means without being discovered was very difficult. Hari Singh came back to Anil's room and stood in the doorway. Anil was still asleep. When Hari Singh came back, slowly he went to the head of the bed and took the notes out. He could feel Anil's breath on his hand. He remained quiet for some time. Then he found the edge of the mattress and slipped the notes under it. I awoke late next morning to find that Anil had already made the tea. He stretched out his hand towards me. There was a 50-rupee note between his fingers. My heart sank. I thought I had been discovered. I made some money yesterday, he explained. Now you'll be paid regularly. My spirits rose. But when I took the note, I saw it was still wet from the night's rain. Today we'll start writing sentences, he said. He knew, but neither his lips nor his eyes showed anything. I smiled at Anil in my most appealing way, and the smile came by itself without any effort. After keeping the money back at its original place, Hari Singh slept on the balcony. When he woke next morning, Anil had already made the tea. He stretched his hand towards Hari Singh and gave him 50-rupee note. Hari Singh's heart sank, means he felt very disappointed and depressed. He thought Anil had discovered about the theft. He thought Anil would throw him out of the house. But Anil very calmly told him about the book and the money he earned. He even promised to Hari Singh that he would be paid regularly. Hari Singh's spirits rose at this statement. He became very hopeful and optimistic. He took the note quietly and saw that the note was still wet from the night's rain. Anil assured him that he would teach him sentences from that day. Hari Singh could make out that Anil knew about the theft, but he neither expressed it through words nor by his gesture. Hari Singh smiled at Anil in the most attractive way, but this smile was different from the smile which he gave in the beginning. This smile came by itself. It had come from his heart, which had no hidden or bad intentions. Now, he was quietly asking for forgiveness. So children, that's how the interesting story ends. So children, that's how the story ends, with the transformation of the skilled and experienced thief into a boy who wanted to get education and change his life. So this particular story gives stress on human values and tells us that how true love and care can change anybody. Thank you.